Welcome 32 it, everyone. This is another episode of Beyond the Tape, and today is a very, very special episode. I teased it in the last episode we put out, but today you're joined by, really in my eyes, the gold standard of NFL draft analysis, and especially with the Beast. Now out and about, I take with great honor welcoming the Athletics' Dane Brugler to the show. Dane, like I said, the Beast is out. I know that is a labor of love. Thank you for carving out some time and talking to us today. And congratulations, another year where the Beast is exactly that, a beast.
Oh, no. Hey, thank you for having me. It's a weird feeling to be able to get that out in the world. And, you work on something for a full year and you pour so much into it. And so to get it out there and share it with everybody is a really cool feeling. And so the feedback has been awesome, especially this year with, there's the PDF still, but there's also an interactive site. So it's really easy to navigate on your phone, tablet, computer, whatever. And I think people are really eating that up. So, it's something that if you haven't checked it out before, please do. I promise you won't be disappointed, whether you're a diehard draft fan or just a casual draft fan. We won't see eye to eye on every player, and that's okay. That if we did, this wouldn't be fun to talk about. But I promise you, there will be things in there that you won't find anywhere else. Whether that's nuggets on players, testing information for almost 2,600 players, all that kind of good stuff. So check it out on The Athletic.
Yeah, and I mean, echoing that sentiment, I was just double checking, grabbing some rankings for my board versus yours for today's my draft or my guys of the draft conversation, and very mobile friendly. And that was something that I know last year. I remember there were some people being like, "Hey, could this be a little bit better on the phone?" And you guys have definitely, prioritized that as an asset for the Beast. So now it's that much easier for people to get their hands on too. So hats off to you, hats off to everyone there at The Athletic. But like I said, tease it a little bit there. We're talking my guys. So we're talking first round guys, we're talking some day 2 guys, and I may even sprinkle in some, D3 guys towards the end of this. But these are the dudes that, hey, on our rankings, maybe we are a little bit higher on them than consensus or others in the group. But who better to talk to about these guys than Dane Brugler in my eyes? So Dane, I want to toss it to you. Who is your first of the 5 my guys you're bringing to the table today?
So I started with Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon, who, and I think a lot of people have caught up to, he belongs as a top 20 player in this draft. But I mean, going back to my top 50 around Halloween, he was 14th overall. I mean, this is a guy that I thought last summer, and then what he did over September, it was like, all right, this guy's one of the better defensive players in this draft class. And it really solidified himself through the process. For a guy that size, for him to run a sub 5 second 40, just kind of, all right, that's what you expected with him. But he was the most disruptive interior defensive lineman this year that I watched on tape. It shows up in the metrics. I mean, he had the most pressures of any interior defensive lineman this year. It shows up in his traits and the tools that he offers. The talent is outstanding. So production, tape, traits, I don't know. It's kind of like checking every box for me with Derek Harmon. And at the end of the day, give me the guys that hate to be blocked, and I'll make it work with them. And to me, that sums up Derek Harmon.
Dude, and I mean, I also am a sucker for a guy who does it at one school, and he was pretty solid at Michigan State. I don't think he would have been a top 20 pick or anything like that. But then when you see them leave that school, leave that program, go somewhere else, take a step forward, that to me is like, okay, this guy can handle new environment, having more put onto his plate, and he can take a step forward while doing it. So I'm right there with you. He's my IDL force. I'm a little bit lower on him than you, but like first round, absolutely here for it. And I'm like praying that we can get a world where, especially after seeing Jared Verse and Braden Fisk in LA, like, can we get Jamari Caldwell and Derek Harmon to reunite at the next level? Like, can Arizona double dip on these two guys? Dude, that would be such a fun.
Throw Jordan Birch in there as well. I mean, let's get the band back together. And I mean, honestly, I could have said Caldwell for this. I could have went with Birch because all 3 of those guys are really good players. I mean, Birch will be a top 60 pick. He belongs in there. And Caldwell is going to be really underrated. Probably early day 3, I guess, is where he's going to come off the board. And he's got he's a great example of read his backstory in the Beast. I mean, I've heard of walk-ons and I've heard of JUCO guys. I've never heard of the walk-on at JUCO guy, but that's Caldwell, which says a lot about his desire to play. He was a 3 technique at Houston, transfers to Oregon, more of a 1 technique. So a team is going to get an interchangeable player with Caldwell. And like I said, he's not on the list, but easily could have.
Yeah, and it feels like Caldwell and Broughton kind of getting out into a different, rabbit hole here. Feels like they're two guys that maybe not everyone in the community or people who are just kind of dipping their toes in the draft or playing catch up, they may not know those names, but people who love those guys, I mean, love is the only way to describe it. They are all in on Broughton and Caldwell too. So I'm right there with you. I think Caldwell, top of day 3, man. I think he'll make a team very, very happy. All right, Dane, for my guy, I'm going to go Trey Amos. He's my CB4. He's your CB5. Got to talk to him at the Senior Bowl. Loved the character. I know he only did the first 2 days worth of participating, but long, lengthy, athletic corner that screams kind of man coverage specialist. But I also think over this last year at Ole Miss, he made some big strides in regards to being a zone coverage defender too, which, the NFL, even teams that run a lot of man coverage, like my Steelers, it's still 60-40 zone. So that was going to be a huge part of his development. And I think this year he took some big strides in the right direction. He's always communicating, and that to me is like, hey, if you're going to be in zone coverage and if you're going to be trying to improve in that area, at least you're communicating. That's half the battle to me. So I'm going to go with Trey Amos. That's a guy late first round, honestly. If you're the Ravens and you fall in love with him, if you're the Bills and you fell in love with them, if you're the Chiefs and you fell in love with them, I'm totally content with him going late 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ended up in the first round, top 25, top 30 range. You talk about a guy that's crushed the process. That's Trey Amos. Like you said, Senior Bowl, showed out, did a nice job. Really, let's go back to the summer. Like he was at Alabama in 2023. If he came out after last year, which in most years he would have had to, but because he had the COVID year, transfers to Ole Miss, won last season, and was an All SEC player, had put really good play on his film. And then Senior Bowl crushed it. Combine to go out there and speed. He wasn't going to be expected to be slow, but speed was a little bit of a question mark with scouts. He goes out there 6'1", 195 pounds, runs a 4.43. And then talking to a scout who was at his pro day, said it was one of 2 of the best cornerback workouts, positional workouts that he watched this year. So you're talking about crushing every step of the process. Trey Amos has been that guy from the tape during the season to every step along here in the months leading up to the draft. So yeah, if he sneaks in that first round, I don't think anybody should be surprised.
Absolutely. Yeah. Foot speed, kind of that long speed. Where was that going to be for Amos? So yeah, to run low 4.4s, sign me up for him. Absolutely big fan of Trey Amos. All right, Dane, who you got for your second, my guy?
I went with Carson Schwessinger, linebacker from UCLA. And I would say he's probably the most fun player that I watched this year. He is a magnet to the football. It's just a tractor beam. He's so smart. He sees it so quickly, and the speed that he gets there. He's making plays at the sideline. He's chasing down plays not even close to where he started. He has no business making these tackles, yet he's able to do it. And then you read into a story and you find out, he was a walk-on, and the way he worked, and he was a backup for a couple of years, and then just the way he got on the field, and then once he did, it was like, all right, led the Big Ten in tackles, led the team in interceptions. This is an All-American with the way he plays, and what he did with the stat sheet. So, and it wasn't just that. He had, and a lot of his tackles were solo tackles. Yeah. He had 90 solo tackles this year. That led the FBS. So I think when you factor in just the instincts that he plays with, how smart he is, how the read react, and then the speed, it's just a fun player to watch and a guy I want on my football team.
No doubt. The walk on, backstory, that's always one that, everyone loves an underdog story. And then, listed at 225, goes to the combine, he's 242 all of a sudden, and also looks like a hockey player with the hair. He's a hard guy not to love. He's my off-ball linebacker too. And like you said, tractor beam. There's no better way to describe how he plays. And dude, oily loose hips, man. Like that guy can change directions with the best of them. And I was kind of curious why he didn't run a 3-cone. I feel like that would be something he crushes. I remember a couple years back, Jack Campbell. It was like, how good of an athlete is this guy? But I was like, I don't know. He reacts. Dude, Jack Campbell's kind of great and sub 7-second 3-cone. You see a lot of that same stuff with Schwessinger, but he's also a hell of a blitzer too. So really fun player to watch, no doubt. All right, Dane, for my guy, I'm sticking in the secondary. I'm going to go Kevin Winston Jr. Okay. I'm going to plant my flag on him. I feel like I'm hearing this a little bit more now, at least with people I'm talking to, but he's my safety too. Like, as much as, Eman Worry is like, his comparison's probably like Steve Rogers with the super soldier serum. Like, I don't know what you do with 6'3", 220 and all those athletic gifts, but the wingspan for Winston Jr. totally backs up. He's one of maybe the best tackler in my eyes in this class. But everyone who goes to Penn State's also a freak athlete. He is no exception to that. And also getting ramped up and, able to do some athletic testing, obviously, after getting injured in week 2 of this season. So love the tape, love the 2023 film. To me, I think his 2023 film is better than Starks and Eman Warrior's 24 tape. We'll see how hot of a take that is in your eyes, but love the athlete. I love him in split safety looks, play him in the box. I think he's good enough athlete to play over the top. There's not many places on the field you can't put a Kevin Winston Jr. So, yeah, plant my flag on him as safety too.
Yeah, and it's really a bummer we didn't get a chance to see him all year because, he looks exactly how you want a safety to look. He's 6'1", 215 pounds. And then, to run a 40 at the pro day, being, not having a ton of, because he rehabbed for so long, and then not having a ton of training to get that 40 where he wanted, and still run that 4.51. That's really impressive. His 2023 I thought was really good tape. He was a guy being mentioned over the summer when I talked to teams. This is a day 2 pick. And so he was coming into this year as a guy that could maybe ascend in that late first round range. Unfortunately, the injury robbed him of that. But I think, I totally get what you're saying. His balance through contact to as a tackler is really impressive, and he's explosive through his target. So it's not just that he can break down and finish; he will finish through guys. Yeah. And it's sometimes I think he's a little too eager, and he'll get sucked up, and he can maybe get caught out of position at times. But it's with a safety like this, you bet on that aggressiveness and then kind of coach him to be a little more disciplined with how he uses it. So, you wish the ball production was better. Like, for a guy with, 3 years in college to only have 6 passes defended, it's like, all right, well, I wish that was a little bit better. And to me, that was a difference between having him, because he's my safety 4. I have Xavier Watts 3 and Winston 4, and that was kind of the difference. Is okay, Watts I know can get his hands on the football. Winston's gonna be a better athlete. He's gonna test better. He's a little bit bigger and he's a better athlete. But there's something about safeties getting your hand on the ball, so that's why I gave the edge to Watts. But no, I love the conviction with Winston, because 3 years from now, if we say that Winston is one of the better defensive backs out of this class, I wouldn't be very surprised. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, hey, Notre Dame fan, so you're not going to upset me by having Watts a spot ahead of him, too. And then something to be said about 13 picks over the last 2 years. Only so much luck can get you same place or right place, right spot. So, anyways, I toss it back to you, Dane. Who is your third my guy?
I think I went Jordan James. Yeah, Jordan James, Oregon running back. We could talk about 5 or 6 Oregon players for them. Terrence Ferguson. We could really go on and on about Oregon players. But Jordan James, I appreciate the way he plays. And he's not going to get you 60 yards on a play, but he'll get you 6 consistently. He will maybe not lead the league in home runs, but he'll lead the league in doubles. Like that's a guy I can win with. Someone that I can down in, down out. I know what I'm getting. And I thought he was better than Bucky Irving last year when you watch that Oregon offense. And obviously we saw what Bucky Irving did as a rookie for the Bucks this year. And then for James to come back and be the lead guy this year, rush for almost 1,300 yards, average almost 5.5 yards per carry. The vision, the decisiveness that he plays with, just not a lot of dancing. It's like, okay, I know where the hole's going to be. I'm going to hit it hard, and I'm going to make sure we get positive yardage. So, and then again, I just love his ability to get more yardage than was expected consistently. 36.5% of his carries this year resulted in a first down or touchdown. That was number 2 in the FBS. So, I don't think that, like, his 40 was fine. The jump's not great. He wasn't a big tester. Totally trusting the tape with a guy like this. So I am more of like a 3rd round player, like top 75 type of guy. Probably more likely he goes in the 4th, especially in this deep running back class. But I think when it's all said and done, he'll prove he should have been a top 100 pick.
Yeah, no, big fan of Jordan James. I hate that I say this out loud, but he's my RB13. But like the cluster between RB8 and 13,
right,
this class is like razor thin. So big fan of his game. I think, late 3rd, like I'd be totally down. Like if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you just need someone to, they already have a couple guys like this, but keep the offense on schedule. Yeah. Why not? So or the Cleveland Browns there with their compensatory pick, that could be a really fun ad right there. So I'm with you there with James. And I do wonder, what maybe the next level could look like, considering, Oregon's just living out of the shotgun more or less. So like more under center opportunities, more I form, more single back. What does that look like for Jordan James? I wonder how that maybe impacts, maybe gives him a little bit more meat on the bone to chew on next.
Yeah. And I love talking to him too. Like I felt like
great guy.
Through my conversations with him, I found out his junior year in high school, he actually played his entire junior. He had a jet skiing accident and didn't have a PCL in his knee. Just didn't have one. And instead of missing his junior year and getting surgery, he played the entire year and was an All-American, led his team to the state championship. Days after the state championship, he got the surgery. So you talk about playing through pain and just doing whatever his team needed to. Like, that's the type of story that I'm like, all right, I was already sold, and now it's like, it signed me up even more. Jordan James is one of those guys that I can easily talk myself into if I'm an NFL team.
100%.
Rookie. It's all about rookie talk in fantasy football right now. So why not go use all that knowledge to do something other than a mock draft? Chris Jimino won $8,000 with just 2 teams last year, and each draft took 5 minutes. That's pretty good ROI. You can start doing rookie drafts for money today on Fast Draft. The Origins tournament is live. It is the place to go and monetize your knowledge of rookies and use your favorite player profiler host promo code for a $25 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
And another running back for my guy that I'm going to go with, similar kind of boat. He's my RB10, so he's in that very, narrow range of that 8 to 13 spot for my rankings. I'm going to go Devin Neal, man. Like, again, not going to wow you with long speed, not going to be a guy who pulls away and leads the league in, 60, 70 plus yard runs, but I love the vision. I love the shiftiness. Also tried and true, tons of football under his belt. Maybe that's a bad thing just with the tread on the tires, but this is just one of those guys, like Matt Miller, we had him on the show last week, and he's got a sticky note in there that says, draft good football players. And like, to me, that is like Devin Neal through and through. Not going to wow with a whole lot else, but love the short area burst, love the vision. I think this is just one of those guys where we'll blink and we'll be like, oh, it's year 9 of Devin Neal. That makes sense. And he's still starting somewhere. So love the player. I think there's a really high floor here with Devin Neal. So definitely one of my guys.
It's just consistency with him. I mean, every year it's just like 1,000 yards. And the yards per carry is very similar. He had 16 touchdowns last year, 16 touchdowns this past year. I mean, it's just year over year, exactly what you're getting with him. And there's so much to like about him being a Lawrence kid, staying home, becoming the all-time leading rusher at Kansas. Yeah. And, he really reminds me a lot of Kyron Williams. It looks very different in terms of the body type, but in, average long speed, but has just this natural feel for making guys miss and stringing together moves. And easy player to like. And I think, he finishes my running back 15, but like, kind of like with you with Jordan James, like he easily could have been a little bit higher, but they're just all bunched together in there. And so the grade is very similar to my running back 9, but it's just, you have to stack them somehow, some way. And so, he's a good player, should go somewhere in the top 4 rounds.
Yeah. Like Neal. And then my guy, it's just like your edge or running back blank, but you're still in my top 80. And it's like, that's just how loaded those positions are. I also think at the next level, Neal's going to be a better pass catcher than he was at college. And I don't know if that was just
more opportunities.
More. I think he'll be a more productive player at the next level. But all right, Dane, who's your 4th, my guy?
So Dylan Fairchild, guard from Georgia, played primarily left guard for them. And I don't think that it seems weird to talk about Georgia and maybe not getting enough love, but the interior of that offensive line was so good. And I mean, Tate Ratledge, I think people know about. He'll be a top 60 pick. I think he might even be a top 40 guy if he were able to be healthy this past year. But even Jared Wilson is going to be somewhere in the top 75, one of the top centers this year. Fairchild, in my opinion, belongs in that top 100 conversation. I mean, you get Wyatt Teller vibes when you watch him. Just he has a high level wrestling background, and that grittiness really translates to the field. He's a hard guy to move. The way he uses his hands, the way that he will bully defenders, he can uproot guys in the run game and really turn them. So to me, Fairchild has now he still has developing to do. So I don't know that he's necessarily a plug and play, but at some point during his rookie year, I think he'll be ready to compete for starting reps. And I think that you might have a long-term starter with him. And like I said, he should be in the top 100 conversation. Probably won't go to day 3. But if it hits, I think you might have the next Wyatt Teller here.
Yeah, and I mean, a team like the Chiefs looking to backfill their left guard spot with Tooney being gone. That's one of those teams that in mock drafts I'm kind of looking at. And I'm like 95. That feels like a sweet spot there for Fairchild. But to your point, Dane, feels like all three of those guys have been super underrated throughout this process. And also, I feel like there's some out there who are just like, oh, they're Georgia guys, they're gap scheme
Right.
guys. And it's like,
Right.
I mean, some of them I could see where Ratledge and maybe Fairchild could fit into that, but they're all really good athletes. Let's, and kind of looking at Seattle at 15-52. Like if they pulled a little Ratledge, Wilson 1-2, wouldn't hate it. Like, what are you going to do with Christian Haynes flip back over to the left side, I guess? But that could work, So there's, and I think Fairchild could be a, fourth round contingency, a late third round option for a team looking to do the same thing. Again, Cleveland to shout them out. They're getting all on the inside. Kansas City, like I already said, with replacing Tooney. So I'm right there with you. No, he's a good football player. And really all three of those guys have been kind of a little underrated, but Fairchild most of the bunch. All right, let's go with my fourth, my guy. I'm going to go with Josiah Stewart, another guy that I got to talk to the Senior Bowl. And I feel like, this is my first year really getting the access to get to talk to these guys. And now I'm like seeing how much that maybe does sway you one way or the other, but just love the character, love his willingness. Yeah. I mean, he's not going to be like the next great run defender at the next level, but he's willing and he's going to set the edge and he's going to play hard and physical. But like, let this guy pin his ears back and just go let him be. Probably the first couple of years, he's a great DPR. And dude, just let him thrive with that. Like I'm looking at the Chargers in the third round, Max back, Thule on the edge, get trust the Michigan connection, go get Josiah in there. Let this guy be that 3rd and 10, drive finisher for you. So love the first step quicks. The USC tape is fantastic. But he's got a couple other games that are just lights out. But yeah, and I love his willingness as a run defender too. And that's kind of where like, yeah, he's a DPR, but the fact that he's willing to do that and he plays hard, he will set that edge. That gives me reason to think maybe there's some upside there. He could get better there, or if he has to play on early downs, I can live with that versus someone who's gonna, unique and Ngakwe their way through this and kind of not put their nose right in the middle of it. Not to throw shade to a 10-year NFL vet. That's
right.
Much longer than I ever made it, obviously. So, but yeah, Josiah Stewart, my fourth, my guy.
Well, and the tape says he's more than a pass rush specialist. So like everything that you said makes sense. He's a very energetic athlete.
Yeah.
I was also high on him, and then he had his workout today, and it didn't go great. So I think he's going to be drafted later than he should. I would say there's a decent chance he's available on day 3. Because he ran in the mid 4.8s at his 40, and that's all he did. He didn't do anything else. He didn't do any other drills. So. I think there's a chance he could be available still when we talk about the 4th round and going into day 3. But when you watch his tape, it says, a guy that's going to affect the quarterback. It's going to force the quarterback to move his feet. And so that relentless finish that he plays with, and it's not just that get off, he's crafty with his hands. Yeah, like he can dip a little bit. Like there's a lot to him that says he is more than just a speed rusher. And obviously the 40-yard dash doesn't even say he's a speed rusher. He's a little bit more than that. And consistently, whether at Coastal Carolina and then at Michigan, he was able to do that. So yeah, I think he was a guy that I would take probably in the mid-3rd range. But if he's still available in the 4th, I think he'll outplay that spot.
100% could agree with you. Again, I was looking middle of the 3rd, Chargers pick. That's a home run, spot for him. I think spot for the Chargers as well. But if he's there in the 4th round, man, I'm going to be pounding the table. And I don't often like, banking on guys in the 4.8s, but I almost brought Xavier Restrepo to the table. I don't feel like that was a real 40 time for him, but you know what? Yeah. Maybe this is my year to go grab the 4.8 guys because they're just a couple of my guys right there.
Trust the tape.
Yeah, exactly. And one last point to that, like you said earlier, I'm a sucker for a guy who does it at one school, takes a step up in competition, and excels. And that was Josiah Stewart, like you said, with Coastal Carolina and then Michigan. But all right, Dane, only got a few minutes left with you here. Who is your 5th and final my guy?
Jacob Parrish from Kansas State, who I just, since I first watched him back in September, I was hooked. I was like, all right, this guy gets it. The read react, how quick he sees it and goes. Speed is there. Still learning in ways in terms of finding the football and the route recognition, things like that. But he better and better and better. You see progress. You see a guy that can press. You see a guy that can play off. I think he's a big time track guy, and a lot of that transfers over with the speed, the way he can stay in phase and be a guy that can help deep, but also when he drives downhill. So, the size isn't great, won't be for everybody, but I think he's a top 75 pick all day. And the way he sees it, the way he reacts to it, I'll bet on that over, maybe some other corners in this class.
Yeah, and you were all over Drew Phillips, and the more you watched of him last draft cycle, it's like, dude, how could you not love? There's something about that scrappy, undersized, probably nickel at the next level type of cornerback. That's kind of like your like sub 6 foot point guard in the NBA. And you're like, oh, dude, this is my guy. This guy is just hashtag fun to watch, So I'm right there with you. I also think the nickel is going to be a position that, give it 5 years or so, we're going to be looking at it as like a cornerstone of an NFL defense. Got to have a guy there. And, this day and age, at too high, this guy's going to be our new Sam linebacker in a lot of ways. But we need him to be a good coverage player. And I think, dude, Jacob Parrish, wherever he goes, they're going to get at least a really scrappy, really high-level starter in the slot, at least in my eyes. I love the player through and through.
100%.
And then last guy to bring to the table, Dane, I had to do it while you were here. Let's go Tyler Shuck. I'm a big believer in Tyler Shuck. I've said multiple times, in my quarterback rankings, he's closer to 2 than I would say 2 is to 1. No disrespect to Shedeur Sanders, but that's just how I see those 3. And man, I think top of the second round, if you're the Browns and you didn't take Shedeur Sanders, if you're the Giants, you didn't miss out on that lottery, you didn't move up to get Sanders, whatever the case may be. I'm feeling pretty good about that, especially considering it's 2 organizations that would like to win sooner rather than later, right? Hot seats in New York, and then the Cleveland Browns, like, how much leash do you really have there? So I've said multiple times, outside the first round, Tyler Shuck's the guy I would put my neck on the line for. I love the arm talent, very good athlete for someone that size, willingness to throw from multiple arm angles. Not a full-on comp, but there is part of this is maybe just the Giants, the Matt Stafford, will they, won't they? Is there a trade there? Is there not? There is a little bit of Matt Stafford, a little bit of Ryan Tannehill kind of in there too. So I could definitely see a world where, top of the second round, this guy, you're looking for someone who could start sooner rather than later. Tyler Shuck maybe that option, but I had to bring him up while you were here because I was kind of late to the party. He was someone who really stood out to me at the Senior Bowl, and I was like, hold on. I watched him live and I wasn't impressed, but at the Senior Bowl, there's something here. And then I went back into his tape, and I remember you were hyping him up at that time. And I was like, dude, you watch SMU game, laser show, Miami game, laser show. So there's some panickiness against the pressure, and he can play a little too much hero ball from time to time. But all things considered, I'm willing to take my shots on Tyler Shuck. I know the injury history is iffy, but you could say that really about any of these players that get drafted. They're one injury away from it all being done. So I'm willing to take that shot on Shuck.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, my senior, people can read it on The Athletic right now. My Senior Bowl preview was centered around Shuck. I was like, buckle up, guys. It's coming. I'm telling you right now, he's got the arm. For a bigger guy, he's mobile. Not a finished product by any means. And, obviously it's a unique situation being his age. And this past year at Louisville is the first time in his career, in his 7 years in college, he played more than 8 games. Like, you can't just ignore that. Like that you factor that in, but how you factor it in, I don't know. Like it's different for everybody. So, but if you're just going to take the player and what he does on the field, he's an easy sell for me. So totally get it with him. He'll be a top 50 pick. It's just a matter of where, and it'll be really interesting once he gets on the field in the NFL, how he does. Yeah,
selfishly as a Steelers fan, I was really hoping that he would be the pick at like 52, but that now the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't get that opportunity. It's
still might go 52.
Yeah. He'd actually be a great fit for that Kubiak offense. Under center play action, would love that. Anyways, Dane, I could talk shop with you all day long, but I know you're under a time crunch, so I'm going to let you get out of here real quick. Where can the people find your work?
All in The Athletic, The Beast, 7-round mock draft coming out this week, and then of course everything next week with draft week. So if you like to draft at all, I promise you will not be disappointed.
Dane Brugler, my man. Like, not only is The Beast in and of your work, now you're pumping out a 7-rounder right behind it, dude. There are a few built the way that Dane Brugler is. But Dane, thank you again for finding some time and coming on the show, man. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Until next time, we are signing off.